Another day in paradise here in Thailand. The Muay Thai guys are back, episode number 103. We are going to go over just a couple of things that have been going on recently, and then a topic that came about when Sean was doing his Q&A. So we've been more active on Instagram and other forms of social media, just kind of answering questions and interacting with the audience, just as we do live here on the podcast. So we're just trying to find more ways of being able to interact and talk with you guys. I think it makes it more real that way, where we can actually interact with the audience versus putting up videos. They may have 100,000 views, and then that's 100,000 people watching. So you look at a stadium, that puts it in perspective, but then you never actually talk to almost any of them besides maybe like a handful that actually reach out and send a message.
Yeah, I've been really enjoying the Instagram Q&As because it just helps me get a better feel on the pulse of what people are struggling with in the Muay Thai world, in the Muay Thai community. And it's been really beneficial to me to figure out what type of content we should be providing, what we should be talking about, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I've been trying to be a little bit more active. I feel like we were talking about this the other night, since Mia left you and left you, since she left for the US and Liz left me for Koh Samui. We've found ourselves glued to our phones more, and it's been quite insightful to say the least. But social media has its place, and this is coming full circle.
Yeah, so one of the questions that kind of comes up rather often, and we have a number of topics that we're going to be covering in the next couple of weeks, but one that I think anyone can really apply themselves to. You don't have to be a fighter, you can just be a practitioner. You don't even really have to be a fan of Muay Thai, but it is how to develop more confidence and how to believe in yourself. And then I think this topic is something that's really interesting because you see it kind of come to form in one of two ways. And it's kind of the same thing as what came first. Was it the chicken or the egg? Like, do you create confidence so that you can perform well, and then it kind of confirms that confidence within you? Or is it something that comes from performing well, and that's what puts the confidence into you? Is it success? I think it's a bit of both, but there are definitely people, depending on their personality, where one works well versus the other.
Yeah, I think it's like you said, it's dependent on the person and the individual. But I think that in order to develop confidence in the first place is you need to take action. And you might not be someone who is usually confident, especially when it comes to joining a Muay Thai gym or trying to train for a fight or whatever it may be. But you build confidence through action. And you build anxiety and doubt and fear through inaction, because you're just sitting still, you're not making moves. And the more moves you can make, the more likely you are to build some type of momentum going forward, which will help in that confidence building mindset.
Yeah, what I wrote here as the first point is something that I believe just kind of can't be broken. I think it's a good rule to kind of follow. It's many of the things that you already do and institute. And I think it's building the confidence through action or training, like if it's specific to Muay Thai, building belief through meditation, and then just bringing in the results and taking in whatever is happening, whatever the results are. Through stoicism, obviously you want to celebrate, or, you can mourn in your defeat or whatever it may be. And we'll be covering the subject of losing and getting over that as well, where I think stoicism is going to play a huge part, where it has played a part for me. But just looking at things more objectively versus emotionally has, I think, been a huge part of me being able to build confidence for fights. How was it for you when you first began training? Do you think you built your confidence through what you were doing in the gym or your performances in the ring?
I think a little bit of both. And I think in the beginning you have this like ignorant confidence in yourself, because you're not aware of how good some fighters are, how hard they train, and you're just beginning and you think, yo, I'll fight anybody. I'll beat anybody up. It doesn't matter. And I definitely had that in the beginning, which was like a good thing because I didn't care who I fought. I didn't think that anybody could beat me, no matter how long they've been training, no matter what. As I've progressed in the sport, you become more and more aware of the subtle nuances that make a huge difference in the fight game and how good some fighters are and how dangerous the sport really can be. But in the beginning, ignorance is bliss, and you can really have this not this false sense of confidence, but like the perspective on who you are in relation to the grand scheme of the fight world can just be really contorted because you don't have that larger point of view when it comes to seeing how difficult it is, what fighting is. And so in the beginning, I had confidence just by training. I think I put in a lot of hard work, and that ended up leading to results in the ring. And then that just built momentum moving forward, and so on and so forth. But I think that it's not one that came before another. I think when you first start fighting, at least in my case, I had this confidence that like it doesn't matter who I fight, I'm tough as fuck. I'll beat anybody. I train hard, and that's all it was. It was just I put in the work, and I'm mentally strong, and so I'm going to be confident going in a fight. And I know it's shifted gradually and also vastly throughout my career, depending on the results in the ring and in training and just what's going on with life. But for the most part, as long as I'm putting in the work, and like you said, with stoicism, with meditation and visualization and the positive self talk and that kind of stuff, it starts to kind of adapt into your subconscious. So it just becomes a part of who you are as opposed to constantly trying to find this confidence. Confidence is already a part of you, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, they've spoken of Mike Tyson, how he was actually a really insecure fighter. He was someone that wasn't that, he didn't believe in himself that much, but his coach just drilled it into his head every single day how he is bound for greatness, how he was created for greatness. And I believe that it depends on the type of fighter you have, because we all know the person that is overly confident where it can get them in trouble. And then we know the person that has all the talent in the world and they can't unleash it, and they can't unleash their full potential inside the ring because they don't believe that they can land it. You know, you have to, you may have the skill set, but if you don't believe that you can do it, like you can win. We've seen this before as well, where a fighter is winning and then they find a way to almost sabotage themselves because they don't actually believe that they deserve that win. And that's one of the things I pointed out in these keynotes here is just believing in what you actually deserve and choosing to demand things for yourself. I think that's been huge for me, is that, well, why not? Why don't you deserve to have certain things that other people have, as long as you're putting in the work? You know, okay, well, this guy is putting in this many hours. Maybe you put in an equal amount, but you can't, we all come from different backgrounds, you know, and there's always going to be an example of someone that had less than you, someone that had more than you, and they were able to succeed. So I don't think looking at other people too much should be of importance. I think you should just demand what you actually believe you deserve and then go ahead and take it.
Yeah, comparison. There's a quote. It's like comparison is the thief of joy. And although there's a time and place to compare yourself, whether it's for motivational purposes or to see where you stand in a certain area, I think it's really important just to compare yourself to your past self and see how much you've been improving along the way. I think a big thing of building confidence is tracking your wins, and not just fight wins, but like showing up to training when you don't want to, eating a healthy diet when there was cake right in front of you, going for the run early in the morning before work, even though you know you didn't have to, not hitting the snooze button. Like all these kinds of things are easy to take for granted. But me personally, every week I go over my week and I go over my day and I jot down the things that I did well and the things I need to improve. And the more I notice myself doing things well, the more I naturally see my confidence build because I'm tracking all those wins. I'm seeing all the bait. Like Richard Abraham actually did a post one time on Instagram. He's like comparing it with an analogy of baseball. It's like, no, I'm not hitting home runs every day, man. I'm just hitting singles all day, every day. And then eventually I'm going to load those bases up and then I'm going to hit that grand slam. And that's the same philosophy I kind of work with too. It's like every day I'm trying to be disciplined enough where I'm putting in the work, I'm staying focused, I'm staying disciplined. And the more disciplined I stay with my game plan and with the things that I have set for myself, the more confidence I build. Now, that being said, if I don't follow through with that stuff, it's really easy to get down on myself, start doubting myself. But instead of doing that, I try to use it as a learning curve and I jot down my mistakes. I figure out why I made these mistakes and what I need to do in order to adjust and not make them in the future. So instead of getting doubtful and be like, oh, poor me, I take that around, I turn that around and be like, all right, like I shouldn't have eaten those cookies. I shouldn't have skipped the morning training session. Why did I do this though? And I think this type of process of tracking your wins, tracking your mistakes, and just tracking your progression is super key because most people are just kind of going through the motions and they don't really know whether they're putting in enough work. They don't really know if they're making any mistakes because they're not tracking it at all. And so when it comes full circle in regards to confidence, I think, at least me personally, my confidence has been growing because I've been tracking all the work I've been doing. I haven't been missing a training session. I haven't been cheating on my diet. I've been putting in all the work where I can, when I can. And because of that, my confidence is naturally going to keep growing. And so I guess what I'm trying to say with this is that you have to be aware. And I think a big part of this too is the meditation that we've been implementing into our training camps here in Thailand as well. And being able to take a step back and kind of look objectively at what you're doing and see whether or not you deserve to be confident or not. Because if you do, then you should be all fucking confident. But if you take a step back and you realize you're slacking off in some areas, that's okay. Just learn from it and adjust moving forward. And I think this constant process is important in life, not just in Muay Thai, being able to objectively look at what you're doing and see where you can improve and where you're doing good things.
I think the common theme here is just taking accountability for everything that is happening, whether it's negative or positive, and looking at it objectively. One of my students and one of the people that came by the Costa Rica camp that, Cassie, she used to struggle with drug addiction before she went into fighting. And I made the video just kind of telling her story. And one of the things that she does that just made complete sense to me, and I think that anyone can relate to. I mean, this is anything in your life, is just taking inventory. So it's one of the steps in the program, right? Is taking inventory, taking responsibility for everything that you did, and then just objectively looking at it and how you can change it without judgment. So that's the main thing is I think a lot of people have a hard time looking at it and looking at themselves, like what you do at the end of every single week. For you to sit down and to be honest with yourself, everything you did, especially the negative things, that's really tough to do for people. And I mean, it's only human. We don't want to feel ill. We don't want to feel guilty for the cookies that we ate. We don't want to feel guilty for the sessions that we skipped. And then when we do, it is less likely that we'll make it the next time. Well, it's like, well, I already messed up, so fuck it, But if you take true accountability on what she was talking about, inventory, where she would go up to every person that she would look at herself at the end of the week or at the end of the day and say, this made me feel uncomfortable. This didn't contribute to my goals. This didn't help me. This made me feel ill. Like after I ate that made me feel ill before I went to training. I didn't have a good training session. I didn't feel good about myself because I didn't have a good training session. And now that plays into my confidence, right? So these little things can have that domino effect. And if we just stop ourselves short before getting to that point and just looking at ourselves and taking that inventory being honest with ourselves, and just looking at taking note of the people, the things, and then the behaviors that we have, and when do they feel good, when do they not feel good. And I try to do that not only within myself, but looking at others. So seeing their behaviors and their constant patterns and routines and what it leads to. Because I think it's pretty easy to see the road someone is about to go down, right? So it's like we're here in camp and you start to learn after the first week who's kind of going to be the one that's going to show up in every session and who's not. And you start to see it more and more as the 2 months have gone by, right? Like you start to see one person, they go out once one night, and then maybe it turns into two, then three, and then by the end of it all, they're on the dark side. And yeah, so you're able to read it, and you read what behaviors start to align themselves with what results. And that's what I try to do from the beginning of my career. Is I took it to a complete extreme where my life definitely wasn't balanced. It was like really extreme on the side of discipline and everything else, but it paid off because the results were there. Like I knew what I was doing, and the results that I got, which were the wins, the self-confidence that came from the wins, and then it gave me momentum. And I'm trying to look at it right now as well. Like going back into my next fight now and starting to look at redemption, looking at the next winning streak. I just have to align myself with the things and the routines that bring me confidence, the things that make me feel good. I have to align myself with the people that make me feel confident, that challenge me, and that bring my skill level up.
Yeah, there's a couple things I want to touch on through everything you said. And first, the overall message that I think we're trying to get through is the importance of self-study and like really learning everything you can about yourself and why you have certain habits, why you make certain mistakes, and just really like studying your life. And I think the more you do that, the more objective you'll end up being, so you can make the rational and like important decisions that are going to ultimately get you to your goals. So doing this inventory, doing these reflections, and always having this time where you're kind of assessing yourself is super, super important for any type of growth in any area of your life. Then in regards to like it, you were saying it takes a strong person to look at your mistakes and be able to take them objectively and learn from them. And I think that's really important. But I also think it's important to feel that pain of making the mistakes and let it sit with you for a second and realize how it makes you feel. It probably makes you feel like shit. It makes you feel anxious. Maybe it makes you feel depressed. But then assess, why are you feeling this way? Like what are you doing or not doing that's getting you into this emotional mindset where you're feeling sad about your situation in your life? Is it because you're not taking action? Is it because you're taking action the wrong way? Or what is it? Are you procrastinating? So once you feel that pain, remember how that feels. So this way it's kind of like the whole human paradigm of we're always chasing pleasure, but we're also running away from pain. And if you can remind yourself of the pain that you feel by not going to the gym, by not putting in the work, by not doing that kind of stuff, then you can also compare that to the pleasure you feel by going to work, by going, putting in the training. Then there's this like unstoppable feeling that you have. Like, there's no reason I shouldn't be going to training because it makes me feel like unstoppable. It makes me feel confident. It makes me feel like I believe in myself. And if I don't go to training, I feel depressed. I feel sad. I feel hopeless. So if you're able to become more aware of this cycle that you put yourself through, it's easier to break that cycle. Whereas opposed to if you just kind of keep going through the cycle without any thought, without any reflection, it's easier to just constantly be going through it. And that's what most people in life do, is they constantly go through this cycle of going through their pain, but not figuring out why they're feeling this way, and then they just keep doing the same bad habits that keep making them feel this way because that's just human nature.
So what would your advice be, just to conclude, someone that is perhaps going into their first fire. They're trying to take a step in their life where they know they're surrounded by negative people, or they're not just okay in general, just straightforward. They're in a place that they don't want to be, and they want to take steps towards a goal, something bigger, something more magnificent, where they feel more successful. What are those first steps to take?
So I guess there'd be, I don't know how many steps. Let's figure this out right now. I think the first and most important step is to figure out what you want. Like, what are you trying to accomplish with your life, with your training, with your work, whatever it is. It's so easy to get caught into the mundane life that you're just going to work for the sake of going to work. You're just going to train because that's just what you do. But what are your goals? Like, what do you want out of it? What kind of person do you want to be because of all these things that you do? And really get clear on the vision that you set for yourself in your life and the person you want to be, like, and start really manifesting that and living that. And once you start doing that, then figure out, what does this person do, like your ultimate self, what does this person do on a day-to-day basis that gives them this confidence, that gives them this momentum, that gives them this utter belief in themselves that they can accomplish anything, and try to figure out what it is you need to do in order to become that person. And I also think it's really important then to, so you have this vision and you have your goals, right? Now you have to figure out what's going to stop you from getting to these goals. Like, what is going to be in your way, and anticipate the roadblocks that are bound to come. You could get injured, you could get sick, you could get fired from your job, your relationship could hurt, so on and so forth. And then once you figure out what could be holding you back, figure out how to work around that. What type of plays are you going to have if you get fired from your job? What other options do you have? You're already at the game. You know exactly. Really important to first set a clear, like, almost unrealistic, quote unquote, vision of what you want your life to be and who you want to be. Second, figure out what you need to do in order to get to that. Third, figure out what's going to stop you from getting that and accomplishing those things that you need to do in order to get to your ultimate vision. And then four, just reassess constantly. Like, I don't lie when I say every single day I have a morning routine and a nighttime routine. I have a weekend routine where I'm constantly reassessing where I am in my life, what I need to do better, what I've been doing well, and what kind of adjustments I need to make. And honestly, you don't want to get into this always planning, always reassessing, always reflecting, because then you're not taking action. It's really easy to get caught in this dream world of like, oh, that'd be so great if I could do this and live in Thailand and fight full time. But if you're not taking the effort and putting in the time and work during those reflective periods, then it's just a pipe dream. You're not doing anything. Every few months, I really make it a point to, like, take a weekend off, go somewhere, and just figure shit out. Where am I in my life? Where do I want to go? What do I need to do to get there? What's going to stop me from getting there? So I know I just kind of covered a lot of things, but to break it down real quick again, set of clear vision, figure out how to get to that vision, kind of reverse engineer it, like what type of actions you need to take and goals you need to accomplish in order to get to that ultimate vision. Figure out and anticipate the problems and roadblocks that are bound to come in that way, and then constantly reassess and readjust, and don't be afraid to change the plan if it's not working. That's my general life advice by Sean Fagan, the Muay Thai guy.
As you listed all these things and talking, using the reference before of chasing the pleasure and running away from the pain at the same time, creating this unstoppable force. Many of the things that I have done and gone through with, a lot of the time, maybe like halfway through, I realized maybe it's not something I actually want to do, or maybe it's not worth the time. Then I realized how much effort that it takes and the result that's going to come from it. let's say I'm writing an article like a certain week, but I told myself that I'm going to finish it by the end of the week. And I noticed that I'm putting in like 6,000 words, how much time it's going to take while I should be resting, let's say for training or whatever it may be. But I told the audience that I will get it done, or I told myself that I will get it done. So it's not even accountability with others at all times, but it's accountability with myself. And a lot of it comes from me being afraid that my word is bullshit and the pleasure of my word not being bullshit. But just to hold that kind of character trait and to do on a consistent basis, because you constantly have to do it, you know, like for people not to think that we all know the person that talks about something or starts a project. Hey, this is like this amazing vision I have, and maybe they have great vision, but it's not implemented, and then it happens again and it happens again, and by the second, third time, you know, you give them one or two chances, but after that, you're like, yeah, you know, and that's a weak thing to have, and it's unfortunate because then maybe one day you actually do kind of turn around and you have this inspiration that you actually drive into action, but no one believes you anymore, you know. So creating that vision for myself and then just saying it out loud where I'm trying to prove to myself that my word is not bullshit. That's definitely been a driving force. And just finishing whatever the project may be, even though like I no longer have inspiration or motivation for it, but I still do it just because of the fact that I said I would, you know, and that's a good character trait to have. Let me go through with it. So doing the same when it comes to fighting, like, you know, having students that don't say much. I try to pat people on the back for that, you know, like the ones that just show up to practice when they're supposed to. And then, you know, I ask them, hey, do you want to compete, versus the ones that talk about competing and then tell me how much work they're going to put in, everything they're doing. And man, with this next fight, I'm going to get real serious, man. And having to hear that for, let's say, like 3 fight camps in a row and just seeing the performance dwindle down.
Yeah, you need to live with integrity. When it comes to integrity, a thing that you need to really be your own self-critic in that sense and follow through with your words. And like you said, I tend to side, like when people are always talking about what they're going to do, it makes me almost not believe them more, because it's just like them trying to convince themselves that they're going to do it. And there is some power in that, in constantly saying what you're going to do and trying to put it out there to the world. But at the same time, like I almost get like I get more excited and more turned on when I'm not telling anybody what I'm doing, and I know that I'm putting in the work and I'm waking up early and I'm doing my morning routine and I'm doing everything I told myself I was going to be, as opposed to telling Facebook, oh, look what I'm doing. I'm going to the gym right now. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. I think coming full circle to our theme of confidence, living with integrity to yourself and following through with what you practice or what you preach to yourself is super super critical for confidence, because you can't bullshit yourself. You can't lie to yourself. You know whether or not you're putting in the work, you're getting up early, you're hitting snooze. You know whether or not you're doing what's right or what's wrong. And so you have to be like your number one fan, but also your number one critic. And finding the balance in between that is what's really key to unleashing your full confidence and unleashing your full potential, more or less. And I just think it's so important to really, coming back to another thing I talked about is study yourself. Like this life is crazy, man. Like whatever you're doing in whatever part of the world you're at, like you're the only person living your life, and you're the only one who could really dissect your life in a way that allows you to change it accordingly to what your goals and vision are. And if you're not doing that, if you're not taking the time to really assess things and figure out what you want and why you're doing what you're doing, you get caught in the trap. You get whatever life plans for you that's what's going to happen, as opposed to planning what you want your life to be. So I think that's just a crucial thing that we've discussed in numerous podcasts, and it's a theme that we live our lives on, is essentially just following through with your word, setting big goals, and then fucking doing it, taking the action, and not just talking a big game, but actually living the big game.
Boom. It's been a while since I've said that. And the Muay Thai guys have boomed the audience. So I think that's a good one to close out on. I think you concluded everything, especially going through all the steps and then just kind of summarizing everything together. So this is episode number 103, how to develop more confidence and believe in yourself. And if you go back through it, you're going to figure out the steps. And I want you guys to go ahead and take that first step. Start to visualize, start to put it to work. And I hope to see you guys be able to put it through and then, show it all off to us once it's complete, once you have something to show off about, or you're taking those steps, you're excited for those steps and keeping that momentum going. So we want to hear about it. If you have a story of success, we definitely want to hear. And then we're going to be moving on to episode number 104, which is coming back from a loss. So Sean and I are going to discuss some of our personal experiences, ways that we have dealt with it or have seen others do so successfully. And we're going to move on to that episode. So we're going to go back live right now. For those listening on the podcast, tune in next week. Muay Thai guys, we're out.